Just want to welcome everyone tonight to our 0 by 50 community listening session. My name is Chase Jones. I'm the Energy Conservation and Climate Action Coordinator for the City of Missoula. And the City of Missoula, with our nonprofit partner Home Resource and our Zero Waste Advisory Committee, which a few of them are in the room, are super excited. We've been working on this for a while, and it's great to really kick off the public portion of this, and thank you so much for coming out. We're also super excited to hear from you. This is a response to a lot of things, but really it's a community response and a groundswell to help reduce waste in Missoula. And so we know you have great ideas, and we're really excited to hear from you. We have a great exercise designed, I think, to pull great information that will inform the plan. A couple quick housekeeping items. If you didn't see the bathrooms when you came in, they're just down the hallway in the door to this end of the building. Also, if you did not sign in, we'd love for you to sign in. It's important to kind of have record of who attended, and also it's a great way for us to keep you updated throughout this process, which we'll talk about a little bit later. A couple thank yous. I would like to thank the Missoula Federal Credit Union for this wonderful room. It was donated to us for tonight by them, and it's a great space, and we're certainly grateful. Another thank you to MCAT for videoing tonight and broadcasting it on their stations, and that's paid for by a media assistance grant. So more good community stuff. Thank you, MCAT. So a quick rundown of the agenda. We have, I think, a great night, an interactive night planned for you. I'm going to start with a brief overview of the timeline, and that really is just to give a broad overview of the process so that you know the information we collect tonight, where it's going, and then other ways to stay engaged until we bring the final plan to City Council in the community, hopefully for adoption. Next, we'll receive a presentation from Jeremy Drake at Home Resource, and that is to provide some background if you know nothing or very little about zero waste. If you do, that's great, but you don't have to. It also is to inform all of you that attended about the City Council resolution that sort of formalized this process, and also the goals around that. We want everyone to kind of start with a level foundation, and that presentation will do that. It's also super fun. It's going to be an interactive kind of quiz style where the clickers on your table will be used, and we'll see some real-time information, so pretty exciting. Then we will kind of get to the meat of the meeting after that, and that is some small group breakout exercises, and we'll have a longer explanation from Katie at that later, but it's a chance for us to hear from you, and it's a chance for you to hear from your neighbors. And then finally, we'll kind of come back and present the results of those exercises so that we can learn from each other and understand themes that are trending and things that could be incorporated into the plan. So with that, I'm going to get to the first part of the agenda and give a broad overview of the 0 by 50 timeline. And so I mentioned the City Council resolution. That was adopted actually about a year ago in February of 2016. And that really formalized this process and directed city staff to conduct what we're here for tonight, and also to create this plan. In the meantime, we convened, as I mentioned, we have a great Zero Waste Advisory Committee made up of 15+ community stakeholders and experts and do-gooders that are willing to volunteer their time. They've helped us vet this public process, and they have given us great advice. They'll also help us vet the drafts of the plan. We'll also give the public a chance to do that as well. We're at this stage here. We're hosting 3 community listening sessions. If you'd like to come back for the other 2, they are March 7th, next Tuesday, at the Burn Street Commons on the west side. And then Wednesday, March 8th, we'll host one at the Missoula Public Library. Also tell all your friends that they missed out on a really great deal tonight and that they should come next week. We want to hear from as many people as possible. After that, we'll likely have a lot of information from the public, and we may want to do a deeper dive. So we've reserved a little space and time to have some targeted stakeholder meetings to maybe collect some more information. We'll then create a draft of the plan in July. What we hear from tonight and all of these public meetings will certainly inform that plan. Super important. And we'll have a first draft in July of this year. We'll then go back out to the public for comment to make sure that we heard why you care, we've addressed your concerns, and we've incorporated all of your great ideas into the plan, and also just to make sure that we're going in the right direction to achieve these goals. And so you'll have another chance to comment, and we hope that you stay engaged throughout this whole process in September, October, and the fall of this year. And then the last step in this process, hopefully, will be a final draft when we present it to City Council and the community for adoption, and then the real fun begins. We get to implement this stuff and start to march down the road toward zero waste.
December 2017?
That is December 2017. That's right before the end of the calendar year and right under the deadline City Council gave us of I think February of that year. Yeah, it was February of 18. And so hopefully we'll be a little ahead of schedule. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jeremy, and we'll get an introduction to zero waste.
Hey everybody, now the fun begins. You have clickers on your table. Please grab one each, because we're going to find out what do you know about zero waste. These clickers are from our partner, National Center for Appropriate Technology. There's a couple of Energy Corps service members working with the city and Home Resource on this effort. And the Energy Corps member, Alexa, and Sean is back there too, Alexa and Sean. Alexa's with Home Resource, and she does our ZWAP program, Zero Waste Ambassadors Program. It's a 5th grade education program. This quiz is inspired by that. So first we want to find out and learn how to use the clickers, find out what your knowledge is around zero waste. So you'll find the little black dot that has the letter that fits for your answer. You click it. You can click it more than one time. The last click is the response that will be recorded. We can find out how many people have clicked there at the bottom of the screen. So how many clickers do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Molly, are you clicking?
No, I'm not. I'm going to sneak out, sorry.
Okay.
But I wrote my comments.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on in 3, 2, 1. Let's see where we stand here. Okay, moderate understanding, most people. Some people have no knowledge. We got some advanced knowledge in the room. All knowledge levels are welcome here tonight. So the first real question here, why bother? Why even do it, right? Why is zero waste important? Is it good for the planet, good for the economy, good for public health, good for the climate, or all of the above? We're going to move on in 3, 2, 1. What do you guys think? All of the above. Excellent. That is the correct answer. This is why. It's all the above. This is the definition that was adopted in the resolution that Chase mentioned. I'm going to read through it. This is from the Zero Waste International Alliance. It's the only peer-reviewed, internationally accepted definition of zero waste. Zero waste is a goal that is ethical, economical, efficient, and visionary to guide people in changing their lifestyles and practices to emulate sustainable natural cycles, where all discard materials are designed to become resources for others to use. Zero waste means designing and managing products and processes to systematically avoid and eliminate the volume and toxicity of waste and materials, conserve and recover all resources, and not burn or bury them. Implementing zero waste will eliminate all discharges to land, water, or air that are a threat to planetary, human, animal, or plant health. Sounds good, right? We're getting there already. This is a list of some organizations, entities in Missoula that know about zero waste, are making efforts to move towards zero waste. Many of them I'm sure you've heard of before. However, we got to face some hard facts on the pathway to zero waste. So this is going to be our reality check section of the quiz here. Do you think Montanans produce more or less waste than the average American? Moving on in 3, 2, 1. More. 73% of you are right. We generate more waste than the average American. Who believes that it's because we love to make waste? Maybe. It's really because we don't have the systems and programs in place to help us reduce the waste. Some other places are farther along the path than we are. For every pound of waste we generate, how many pounds of waste are generated in resource extraction, manufacturing, and distribution of the stuff we buy and use? Half a pound, 2 pounds, 21 pounds, 71 pounds? Moving on in 3, 2, 1. 21, is that the general consensus? The real number is 71 pounds. So that means for every pound of waste we prevent in Missoula, we're preventing 71 pounds of waste somewhere else, upstream it's called, from where we are. So it's good for Missoula, it's good for a lot of other places as well. What is the hardest material to recycle in Missoula? Metal, cardboard, plastic, glass, or paper? Moving on in 3, 2, 1. That looks like glass. And correct, it is glass. Glass is the hardest thing to recycle in Missoula. Why do we recycle? We recycle, I think we recycle because we're trying to conserve resources, trying to save energy, right? So those are very valid things to do. All materials have value, no argument there. However, when we look at energy savings, by making stuff from recycled materials rather than new raw materials, glass is at the bottom of the list for energy savings. There's viable markets already in place in Missoula for all this other stuff that saves a lot more energy. So, reality check. It's not all about glass recycling. Can we recycle our way to zero waste? Moving on in 3, 2, 1. No. Thank you. Most of you got that right. We cannot recycle our way to zero waste. And the next question is going to illustrate why. These two waste streams make up more than half of everything we throw away. Cardboard, food scraps and wasted food, electronics, construction and demolition debris, diapers. This question, you can choose 2 answers. There's 2 correct answers in this question. So pick 2. This one's a little harder, so I'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay, moving on in 3, 2, 1. Food scraps is a big one on there. And it's kind of a wash on the rest. The real answer is food scraps and wasted food and construction and demolition debris. So what is food scraps and wasted food? It's all the stuff we don't eat, our leftovers we don't eat. It's the banana peels and the coffee grounds and the orange rinds and the fallen fruit that ends up in the trash can. The stuff we don't eat at the restaurant and everything that's left over after we've prepared dinner. It's all that stuff, right? That stuff doesn't belong in the landfill. It belongs, the edible food, it's for people, animals to eat. The rest of it, it should go back to the earth. There's nutrients, there's minerals, all that stuff is going to be better off in the earth than in the landfill. This is the former Lucky Strike bowling alley back in January. There's a lot of wood in that. There's some cinder blocks and some other materials. A lot of stuff. So EPA statistics tell us that more than half of everything in the dump is construction and demolition debris and food. 40% construction and demolition debris by weight, 21.6% food by weight. Can we recycle food beyond composting it? No, we can't send it to a recycling facility. We do have a composting facility in town, so there are options. Let's see, where are we going next? So I said earlier, all materials have value. Doesn't matter where they go. When they go to the landfill, they are assigned a value based on how much you are charged to dump the material there. So what do you think is the average value placed on materials when disposed at a landfill in Montana? An average, and what this language is about, it's the tip fee when you go to the dump. How much do they charge you? Average across the state. Going to move on I'm going to move on now. Well, that's pretty even spread there. The real answer is $45 a ton. And that goes from like $17 in Billings up to 60 some odd dollars in Helena, and there's stuff all around there. So this next slide is just an illustration, an example of the potential for a value in materials that might be going to the dump. So the value of material when reused, for example, at-home resource, building materials. What do you think, same volume, a ton, what might the value be per ton of building materials that end up at home resource instead of going to the dump?
Like diversion value, all that considered too?
Like the dollar value of the material.
What they'd sell it for.
Yeah, what it was sold for at home resource. At the register. That's where we got this figure. Okay. What did you think? 50%, $240 a ton, 30%, $515 a ton, $920 a ton. Not everything in the dump has that kind of value. It's true. However, this is an example. The EPA says 40% of everything going to the dump is construction and demolition. That some of this stuff is in that 40%. Bradley Layton here in the audience tonight did an anecdotal study surveying conventional recyclables that are going to the dump in Missoula, and found out that there's about $5 million worth of conventional recyclables. Paper, plastic, was glass in there? Plastics, number one, number two plastics, metals, cardboard, stuff that's viable, has a commodity market. So that stuff's going to the dump. Value, there's value there. And then there's the stuff that doesn't belong in the dump because it's toxic, it's hazardous, right? It's the old electronics, the dead batteries, the things that contain mercury, all our household hazardous waste stuff. It finds its way to the landfill, and we need opportunities for them to be redirected. Okay, so about the Missoula Zero Waste Resolution. Just so we all know what we're shooting for here tonight when we get to work. What is the goal of the Missoula Zero Waste Resolution? 90% reduction, waste stream reduction by 2050, 60% waste stream reduction or better by 2040, 40% or better by 2030, 30% or better by 2025. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right. Yes, the answer is 90% waste stream reduction by the year 2050. All these other numbers are the benchmarks along the way that were outlined in the resolution. The final goal, however, is a 90% reduction by the year 2050. The resolution also set out some goals. One of them was to develop a zero waste plan. That's why we're here. One was to produce a baseline study to determine Missoula's waste stream, because we don't really know. We need a place to start before we can reduce it by 90%. We don't know what that place is yet. So we're hoping to figure that out soon. And the other piece, to ensure public input in the development of the zero waste plan. Also why you're here tonight. So, last question of the quiz, it's most important. The Missoula Zero Waste Plan will identify objectives and actions to get Missoula to zero waste, require no changes of Missoulians' waste behaviors, be written without any input from the community, do all the work of reducing waste by itself. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right. You nailed it. That's right. It'll identify objectives and actions to get Missoula to zero waste, but we're the ones who actually have to do the work to make it happen. Okay, so this is actually the last question. Maybe you know a little more about zero waste than you did 10 minutes ago. Let us know. Do you know more or possibly less? Are you more confused? Okay, I'm going to move on in 3, 2, 1. All right, knowledgeable, fantastic. That's a perfect place for you to be as we move into this next process. So thank you everyone for playing the What Do You Know About Zero Waste game. And Katie Duell will take us into the next section of the evening.
So I am Katie Duell. I'm the Executive Director at A Home Resource. And here's the deal. We know you care, we know you're curious, and we know you have great ideas. And we are so glad that you came here tonight to share your ideas with us. So with that goal that Jeremy just stated of 90% reduction by 2050, we need to get everybody's ideas to get us there. And we know we might not have every idea that we need to get us to 90% by 2050, but we also know that we're going to get enough ideas to get a really good start on it. And once we get that start, we'll figure out the next pieces as we go. So we've created this process to do exactly that. I'm just about to explain it. It's to collect your thoughts, and our goal by the end of the evening with the process is to have 3 lists about your thoughts. And the list will be why you care, what the barriers are to achieving that goal as you see them right now, and your recommendations to move our community towards zero waste. We will use a similar process for each question, so it'll become old hat very quickly. And it's going to give you time. The process is designed to give you some time to think for yourself, and then to think with another person, and then to collect that list as a group. And that's why we had you together at tables, because each table is going to be a group for that. Also wanted to remind people, we don't expect you to know all the answers. There's no right and wrong. We don't expect you to write it out and get it right and have the perfect list. But we believe that collectively, we will get all the answers that we need. So you give us your best answers, and collectively, I think Missoula is going to give us the information that we need to do a great plan. It's my job to share a couple of very simple ground rules to help the process go smoothly. The first is just we ask everyone to follow the process. Your facilitator will lead you through it step by step. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. It's pretty straightforward. Try to be concise so that we have time to hear from everyone because we have limited time and we're committed to getting you out of here by 8. We have timed, each section of the process is timed, so use that time to your best advantage and then be concise as we're sharing. And then of course we ask everyone to respect others We're here because we respect materials. We recognize the value in them. We also respect each other and our whole community. So that just means everyone has good ideas. This is not the time to debate the merits of an idea. It's just to collect those ideas and put them together. The last thing is, if you need to leave early, we just ask that you just sneak out quietly, like Molly did, or she tried to. Knowing that everyone else is in the midst of the process. And if there's some information that you want to give us that you haven't had time to give us, if you have to leave early, fill out a comment card on your way out. Just make sure we get that information. We do want to hear what you have to say. So I think that's it. I'm going to invite the facilitators up. Erica, are you willing to join this table? Yeah. And so I'm going to have Chase and Jen at this table. I'm going to invite Sean and Jeremy to this table, and Alexa and Aaron to this table. And your facilitators will tell you where to go from here.
So my name is Jeremy Drake, and I'm with Home Resource.
I'm Erica Barnett. I'm the Energy Corps member for Missoula County. My name is Kylie. I'm here as a student from the University of Montana. I'm studying sustainability in the business department, so I'm just kind of curious, and a community member.
Cool. Kaylee?
Kylie.
Kylie.
I'm just an interested citizen, I guess, in pursuing these same interests for 30 or 40
I dragged
years.
him along with me.
Oh, awesome. And tell me your name one more time.
Bruce.
Bruce, right.
And I'm Shelley, starting a new business, Oreos Refining, taking care of the electronics in Missoula.
And I'm Sean. I'm an Energy Corps member too with the City of Missoula.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Okay, so next we're going to talk about what this process is going to look like. The goal here is that we're going to get your input, and we're going to end up with 3 lists from this group. We're going to ask 3 questions that Katie mentioned, and each time it's going to basically be the same process that we go through. The way that we're going to do it is when I ask a question, each of us will have 2 minutes to think about it, write down our ideas on the little pads here. We'll time the 2 minutes. We'll let you know when you have 30 seconds, and then when time's up, we'll partner up. How about you guys partner up and you guys partner up? And you turn to your partner and you just tell each other about your ideas. You're looking for, if you identify shared ideas, it's great. At the end of that, we want to have just a list of all the ideas. So you may agree on a couple ideas. You may have totally different ideas. But at the end, we have 4 minutes for that pair share, and we'll give you times when you're getting close. Then we'll do the group, and one of you, or you can switch back and forth from the pair, will say, here's our ideas. And that's what we write up on the board. And that's going to be a longer block of time, 8 minutes or so. We're not looking for exhaustive lists, like Katie said, just what's on your mind right now. The last question is going to be a little bit different, where we are going to we're going to vote with these dots to prioritize most urgent and most important out of what we come up with in that last question. So, any questions about how that's going to go? Okay, and if you have questions along the way, feel free to ask. So, the first question is, why do you care about reducing waste? All right, you guys ready? Cool, so pair up now, talk about your ideas with your partner. All right, so now what's about to happen is that we've got 8 minutes, thank you, Sean, to, these are sentences, get the ideas, and we're going to put them up here. So we'll go back and forth, and if you guys want to start, share an idea or two from your discussion, and then we'll go over there, and then we can pop back and forth.
What was the question?
So these are ideas that
What-
proposals on how to reduce waste.
So why do you care about reducing waste? Yep. Yeah, that's the question. Why do you care about reducing waste? So do you guys want to start?
Sure. We said a lot of the same stuff, mostly environmentally focused. So reducing emissions. I think landfills are the first or second largest methane producers.
So reducing landfill emissions?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's 4 minutes, so this is the second thought. Now we're going to do group discussions, and that will be 8 minutes. And we'll, if each group could do a point.
Great.
And then everyone
You have another one?
keep doing that.
Yeah, just reducing the like upstream energy use and emissions. Because they both fall into that. Yeah. They are. Yeah.
So that's emissions like CO2 emissions.
Yeah.
And these are emissions like methane emissions. Is that right?
GHGs.
GHGs.
So, some of the
Yeah.
kind of overlap.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I was big on reducing packaging. Since a lot of times it weighs more than what you get.
Yeah. Reducing packaging. And is that packaging in general or packaging waste? Or
In general, yeah, all the goods we buy. I mean, if there was, I don't know, you can pass a resolution citywide that says, hey, you can't have packaging that's more than this X% or something.
Right. Okay.
Digging stuff out of the ground.
You have it? You want to add anything to that, Shelley?
The exporting of our waste to other countries, to dump it on them, destroy their ecosystems and their people.
I think is there a documentary called Exporting Harm?
Yeah, there's several.
Exporting waste. Harmful to people and the environment? Did I capture it?
For the illegal export.
The illegal?
Yeah. It's illegal to export e-waste to other countries. But we do it anyway.
Okay. Do you have more to add to this list?
I was thinking one thing is reducing the need for mining. We're able to recycle a lot of those electronics and kind of get the materials back from them. We won't have to rely on mining so much because it's pretty close to home here in Montana.
Right, so if we're reducing mining, then,
By reusing.
Reclaim.
right, what are we doing instead? Are we preserving? What's the positive spin on reducing the
Preserving
mining?
ecosystems and water sources.
Ah, yeah.
Because I think I kind of did the list, but like Bob was fantastic job of keeping everything together and kind of bigger character.
And this is from using recycled materials instead of mining. Great. How's our time, Sean?
4.5 minutes.
Okay, super. And if things are coming up for you in the moment, lay them on us. Anything else that anyone have on their mind? About why you care about reducing waste? Good. All right. We'll call it.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to Barry's question. We're going to do the same thing again, where you start out individuals, write down your answers, and then come together as partners. And the question is, What do you think are the barriers to achieving zero waste, to achieving our zero waste goal? What are the barriers that we're facing? And just so you know, so that you don't answer the next question is recommended actions. So this question is, what are the barriers that we're facing right now?
We want to hear every idea.
And so the examples could be infrastructure, accessibility, attitudes, or just not enough time in your day.
Real or perceived barriers.
It's just kind of a thing where it's, to me, it's like.
So, who wants to start sharing what are the barriers to our zero
I'll
waste?
start, Republicans.
Can
No,
you say more about
seriously.
that?
I have apathy and economics and resistance from industry.
Okay. And by apathy, you mean by
People
the
just
people?
don't care enough, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why they throw their beer cans and stuff out the window.
Okay.
How do we force people to care?
Well, it takes education, it starts on the first
Yeah,
grade.
the plans we came up with, the school project was money incentives. It's really the big one.
Yeah, money.
People are driven by money.
Right, money is good incentive.
Did you say economics?
Yeah, the economics of it, paying for it, because,
Yeah.
you know,
Paying
some
for,
of it will support itself, and most of it, you know, yourself.
The labor code.
paying for just
For-
whatever we
for-
need
yeah,
for the
for-
zero waste.
Reclaiming all that waste, you know, and doing something with it. I mean, somebody's got to pull apart all the electronics and get the metals out of it.
Okay.
People have to undo the construction debris somehow and do something with that. That's a biggie.
Mm-hmm. So,
Paying
for the work.
for it, yeah.
Yeah. For it.
Recycle that stuff.
And this is
Give me a penny of that.
the work.
Equals e-waste.
Okay, does that capture it? Jobs, is that the work, the jobs? Is this about right?
Yep. Working jobs, yeah, I guess.
Is there something else that is closer to what you're thinking? So the economics of it, who's gonna pay for it?
Yeah, you know, that's what I like complains about. Is this going to cost us more money?
Uh-huh, okay.
Coming up with the means to pay for it where people don't realize it's coming out of their pocket. You know, public issue, sure.
Okay. Great. You guys, you want to throw a couple out?
Yeah. One that I just thought of is when you think of zero waste, it's kind of like this really big concept. You know what I mean? It's like almost intimidating to break down and make tangible. So I think that could be a huge barrier. It's just making people aware that the individual can actually make a difference and doing something about that.
So it seems daunting.
Like almost too overwhelming to deal with.
Too overwhelming to deal with
Yeah.
the waste, or to deal with sorting it out and
I
deal
think
with
all of
getting
it,
to
just,
zero waste.
just to deal with zero waste in general, just
Concept.
to kind of like, yeah, just to conceptualize it, to visualize what it actually means.
Okay.
I think it's an unrealistic goal or something.
I think for a lot of people, they think it is unrealistic, especially in the type of
It is. It's
way
pretty
that
hefty
things are
goal
done.
to try to get 90%. We got quite a year to do it.
Yeah, but when you're using the word zero, that means zero,
Yeah.
nothing, and that's not really,
That's not feasible.
Well,
Yeah.
the city's goal is 90%.
Right, yeah,
And
just like make that
internationally, the people who figured out what this is about, 90%. They say zero waste or darn close. So at this point in our experience, even the people who believe zero waste is a thing are resigned to the fact that there might be 10% that we can't figure it out yet. But maybe in the future. Right now, 90% is considered zero waste, which is why that's the goal outlined in the resolution. But it's daunting, it's too overwhelming to deal with, and to visualize or conceptualize zero waste. Okay, and you said one other thing?
Did
Or
I?
was that, okay.
I think that
this is
pretty much
good?
covers it.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have another one from your duo?
We both thought at first was just to get people to change their habits, maybe the hardest step.
Personal habits?
Personal habits, yeah.
We're halfway there.
So that's different than this, but it's in the same, it's in the same realm
Yeah.
of action, right? It's the individual.
Yeah, no, it's different though.
Yeah, right.
You just don't care in personal habit, it's just something that you can't get out of road.
Yeah.
Done it for so long.
It changes hearts. Does that kind of get to that? Or what did you have in mind around the personal habits?
Just as far as getting people to separate their recycling in their homes and then, have to bring it out, or whether the city's going to provide, somewhere for them to dispose of it, or if they have to bring it somewhere. Because then that takes more time out of their day. It's just kind of getting into the habit of not wasting things and not just automatically throwing things away like
Right.
they used to, I guess.
So, yeah, so adopting zero waste
Yeah,
habits.
adopting the new habits.
A challenge. That about right? Shelley, do you have anything you want to throw in here?
One of them was already covered.
This one?
Of people.
People. Okay.
And that is, there's really nothing offered that everything, like Montana is so far away from anything else. Towns are so far away. So yeah, if you're living out somewhere, in the boonies, where are you gonna go? You're gonna have to remember to load your car up with your recyclables.
Right. Well,
What are you
that's a
gonna do-
really good.
What are you gonna do with your mortar oil? You gonna
Yeah.
put it back in a different container, take it with you, or are you gonna just dump it on your ground?
Right, yeah. And that's a really important point and something as a rural state that we definitely have to think about. It might be a little bit outside of thinking of Missoula, the city of Missoula Zero Waste Plan. Geography, I think, does play an important role. You said, I overheard you say that things are too far apart. Were you talking about that in terms of like people getting stuff to the right place, or that
Getting
we're
stuff to the right
geographically isolated?
place, or how, once you get it to the right place, where does it go from there?
Because
It's
we're in
all
Montana.
gotta be shipped out of the state.
So-
Everything is shipped out. Nothing is like taken care of personally here.
So are geographically isolated, is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about recycling, everything needs to be shipped out.
Shipping too much in, not using local resources.
We are at 8 minutes.
Okay, anyone have any last burning things to get up on the board?
Something with just capacity, because if we have that much more waste that we're going to recycle, do we have the facilities that can handle that much capacity, I guess? Kind of like the same with the geographically isolated, is we have to ship it out, we don't have the means of processing it all here.
Bring that back around in the right direction.
In other words, incentives to waste.
Great. Yep, these sound like barriers to me. Apathy, people don't care enough. The economics are uncertain. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to do the work? Where are those jobs going to come from? Who's going to pay the people to do the work? And is it ultimately going to cost us more to get it all done? it's daunting. It's too overwhelming to deal with, visualize, or conceptualize the scope of zero waste. It's too big. People's personal habits and adopting zero waste habits can be a challenge. Change is hard, and we're used to doing things the way we're doing. I think you said something about time. Time in the day to do that new stuff that's going to be potentially asked of us, right? We're geographically isolated. Currently, everything we recycle is shipped out somewhere else. And we don't have the processing capacity here, the means to do it here. Yep, those all sound like barriers to me. Thank you.
So we'll move on to our last question, recommendations. And so what steps,
Well, hold on. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about how this one's going to be a little bit different.
yeah, we are gonna vote at the end of this one. We're gonna each have 6 dots. You're gonna have red for the most urgent, what should happen first in sequencing, kind of the low-hanging fruit, and then the green is the most important, what we can't accomplish zero waste without it. So the question is, what steps does our community need to take to achieve our zero waste goal? Steps should include programs, policies, facilities, education, or infrastructure. Steps could, not should.
So what is the question?
So the question is, what steps does our community need to take to achieve our zero waste goal? What stuff do we need to do? What facilities do we need? What programs do we need? What policies do we need? Do we need education? Do we need infrastructure? What basically does the Zero Waste Missoula look like, from the stuff that we are touching and dealing with to the policies that are directing the way things happen? All right, let's do this next thing. I just want to point something out before we move on. These pads that you're using, the city makes these. Yeah, they collect all their one-sided paper that they can't use.
And
And they
actually,
reuse
how do they put this on?
They have a machine
Oh, they have a machine.
that does it. Yep, they do it in-house.
Nice.
Great. Who wants to start with the list? I heard a lot of ideas. You guys want to give us 2 or 3 and then we'll pop over here?
I guess the biggest thing we talked about was education, starting with elementary. Because if we can get the kids in the right habits now, it'll make it easier in the future. And even for adults too.
Yeah.
The signage.
Say that again about the adults.
Adults do like what you guys are doing tonight, just more public outreach, I guess. Finding a way to reach more people with the message.
I think they're very
Great. You want to throw another one out at us and then we'll...
Maybe at bigger events, encouraging people to bring their own stuff, like not having stuff like paper plates or plastic cups there at all, and just kind of making people get used to that sort of thing, I guess. Like at football games or larger events downtown or community events like that.
So are you saying like, get rid of single-use disposables altogether?
Yeah.
All right. Would it be a ban, or is just
Regulate.
like phase out, or?
Maybe phase out, maybe make people pay for them at first, and, but tell people in advance. like,
Okay, so
this is a bring your own
plan,
slash.
how about plan phase out of single-use disposables at events?
Yeah.
This one smells really good.
I did a lot of this stuff in the manner, like with the kids, bringing it home, they're.
Just a little more than other years, so I would. You guys still get us through.
Okay, great. You two have
That's
a couple you want to
still
throw
have
in?
our ideas, but I could add maybe, get all the restaurants on board with the recycling food waste and tackle that just by a little bit of coercion.
So when you say recyclable food waste, are you meaning like
Yeah, to
compost?
compost, yeah. You get all the compostable stuff right from the start before it gets mixed with everything else. And I suppose it might go without saying that they'll have to supply containers or some type of, vessels for recyclables if they set up a program too, that stuff.
Are you still talking about
Well,
restaurants?
for everybody, I mean, even for the general public, I mean, that's the way it is in the city that I've been to before, that
So
they
you're saying like
provide,
curbside?
yeah, separate containers, recyclable containers for your glass, your paper, and your plastics, whatever, 3 different, slots.
So would that be,
Oh, I guess just providing the means for people to recycle.
An infrastructure?
yeah, but it sounds like you're talking specifically about curbside recycling.
That type of thing.
So increase access to curbside recycling? Is that it? Is that about it?
Yeah. I'm not from as well how the city operates here with
Yeah.
the trash pickup.
Well, so it's all
It's all dumpster stuff?
Well, the city doesn't do it. It's a private
it's-
hauler, Republic, yeah.
Okay.
And they have different things that they do in different places.
They do
So
different
it's
things.
not uniform.
They do some cycling on their own, obviously.
So, did we land on increase access to curbside recycling?
Yeah,
Or
I guess,
increase
just
curbside
make it more
recycling?
Available.
So being on the website too, okay.
And does this include compostables too? Or is this just like bottles and cans and paper?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was trying to remember when my brother's back in Ohio, compost separate, or everybody dealt with that on their own. I don't, do you know if the cities do?
Some
compost?
do, some do,
Yeah,
yeah.
separate containers for that.
Yep. You guys want to throw a couple more out?
It was like a community compost, even just somewhere you could drive to compost.
Community composting sites?
Yeah.
And is that, it's like a place where you take your stuff and
Yeah.
it gets composted there?
Just take all your compost and then someone turn it and then hopefully reuse it. My friend Rachel started a program. They go and pick it up and recycle it.
Shirley, you look like you got something.
Mine's a little more narrowed down, like companies that make concrete. You can use glass in concrete, you can use plastic from electronics that's fire retardant in concrete.
Okay.
That would take a huge amount, I think, of waste that's generated in Montana, give it to a place that knows how to use that, to put it in their concrete, and it's taken care of.
It sounds like
I mean,
fine,
that's,
yeah. So to take it up a level, it sounds like find viable markets for
in
materials
Montana.
in Montana.
So
And then I can
therefore-
put glass and plastic and concrete. Does that sound about right? Or find or develop viable? Because I don't know
We
if they
do
exist.
have concrete businesses, but do
Or
they know how,
encourage those businesses to do that.
yeah, do they know how to incorporate that stuff into their,
Right.
and if they don't, are they willing to? Because they should save a huge amount of stuff of like electronic plastics being shipped out. Because there's a lot of it. And if we don't have to ship it out, that's gonna save CO2, that's gonna save the, the landfill, and it can go back into the roads. And we all need better roads. Here, especially in Missoula. So many potholes.
Right now. It's like they came out overnight too.
I didn't know where.
Totally. I know it was overnight. Like, I walked out on my patio and I was like, what, the kids like broke up this chunk of concrete in my patio with a shovel or something. What are you? And I was like, guys, did you crack this? And my wife was like, it's the ice.
Little miniature, what do they call them in the road?
And the next
Caves.
is potholes all over the road. Yeah.
Sinkholes?
Sinkholes.
Yeah, I know.
It's like these little miniature ones that are not just, they're like this.
They're huge. Yeah, I'm right. So we got this one, develop viable markets for using recycled materials in Montana, glass and or plastic and concrete. Okay.
And I think for the education too, to have, for me, it's like videos. My God, I see a video that explains how to do something. Quick video. This is how you recycle. You take the lid off your bottle. I mean, just simple stuff because a lot of people do not know when they're going to recycle.
Social media too.
Take it.
Blast it out there since that's what everybody reads into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Wonderful.
Because if people don't know, they don't know.
Yeah, right. So we're going to have a chance to vote on our most favorite of these, but are there more that we want to get up on the board before we do the voting? Anyone?
Home recycling pickup.
Home
I don't know whether it's company or public, but yeah, kind of curbside recycling.
Is that the same thing?
Just like people, if they were able to have their own receptacles, like some of the businesses do now, where they provide the container and then they come pick it up once a week.
Yeah.
It's hard for some people to take their recycling somewhere.
Yeah, right. So, as alternative to drop off.
Yeah.
Okay, great. What else?
How about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do?
Is that a recommendation? Do the right thing?
Because it's the right thing to do.
Because it's the right thing to do?
Whether you get money for it, whether it takes an extra 10 minutes out of your day, it's the right thing to do, so just do it.
Plastic bag tax?
Yeah, it's like, in other cities, the stores charge them like 10 cents per plastic bag they use.
Fee?
Yeah.
Some places
Even
ban
paper.
plastic bags.
Yeah.
And I think it's worked. Some of those places it
I
has
had no
worked.
idea about this until last
Should I
year.
throw that up there?
Group members.
Fee/ban?
Yeah, /ban.
I bring my bag into Walmart and they freak out. They push these plastic bags on me every time. I have one little thing that do. I'm like, no, why would I?
I've got the same responses. It's ridiculous. It's because they want to promote their business with the logo.
Branding, yeah.
I'm like, but then when they realize that they don't have to do anything,
All right.
pack the stuff. Oh my,
Let's,
they're like, oh my God, this is so easy. I like my job right now.
We got plastic bags. Maybe we'll fix that. Maybe we'll fix that. So what else? We got 7 on the list. Let's get up to 10. I know you got more ideas. There's pages full of ideas.
Increasing signage throughout the community. It kind of goes with education and public outreach, I suppose. But just like putting
Like
signs.
billboards kind of stuff, or
Advertising, actually, pay for advertising.
Yeah, I was thinking more like little posters, but I guess a billboard could
okay,
be
so
effective.
well,
I guess I
public,
was picturing like posters in public places.
yeah. So public education.
Yeah, and consistency throughout the signage also I think is important.
Consistent messaging. Is that what you mean by consistency?
Yeah, and having it all look the same so that when people see the sign, they're like, oh, yep,
Messaging and look. Okay.
Maybe put signage under that.
Yep. I'm gonna put signage here.
And even changing the sign, instead of using garbage can, use landfill.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Language
Because
is
that has made a huge
Yeah.
difference in lots of cities just by changing that. There is no garbage, it's landfill, and there's a big picture of the landfill.
Yeah, I think
So you feel guilty
Yeah.
when you put your hand in the garbage.
Great. So again, just in case this is going to jog more of your great thoughts, programs, policies, facilities, infrastructure, anything that,
Higher fees for trash service.
Kind of like a tap. Yeah.
Pay as you throw type thing.
Yeah, because I never heard, at least till I moved to Missoula, I didn't realize you even had to pay to go to the dump, and I was blown away by that fact. But even, you know, I guess it's a private business that does the trash pickup for houses, so I guess if they would have to maybe increase some sort of tax for them, and then they would have to increase their prices, but because people are motivated by money, the only way to really motivate them to make a change is to make it more expensive for them to throw their stuff away, so they'll actually consider reusing it.
and Sean mentioned what's called pay as you throw, where if you get a 96-gallon bin, you pay more than someone who gets a 64-gallon bin and who gets a 32-gallon bin. So you can get service for the smaller bin and pay less.
Oh, okay.
So those, should I put that on there as a, because that's kind of one of the ways that it's been implemented. Pay as you throw. Super.
I mean, I think there needs to be penalties. I mean, if you're
Okay.
sticking certain hazardous material to throw away, I think there should be penalties.
Penalties.
Other states have that.
Okay.
Like if you're gonna, yeah, if you're gonna stick a CRT and OTV in the dumpster in your garbage can, I think you should be fined. That is considered hazardous waste.
Fines for misplaced hazardous waste.
Yeah. If you're gonna throw your cell phone in the garbage can, I think you should be fined. You know, if there is a place, you can take it for free and it's hazardous
So
waste.
place to take hazardous waste for free. How about, should we throw that up there?
Yeah.
Does the
How about a
fine,
company that will pay you a penny a pound to take your
Great.
electronic?
How about a place, place to
Not that I'm
take-
plugging my
The
business
only
right
place I
now.
have a cell is apartment, so it's safe on cell phones and there, but I have a laptop, so I will take it all. It's been sitting at my house for
And
months.
e-waste?
Because I won't throw it away.
Got room for one more?
were you saying for the?
Yes, we've got room for one more, or more. One,
What do
two.
you think of a deposit on certain items that are excessive, you know, like I said, packaging or whatever, that people would have to pay and they get that deposit back when they dispose of
Oh,
it?
like bottles of milk.
I love deposits.
Yeah.
There's a thing called bottle bills.
You're right. I
Yeah.
fought for that in Michigan back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only 10 of them. They started in the 70s. There's only 10 of them. How many states do we have? 50.
They tried it
We only
in
have 10
Montana.
in
Yeah.
10
They tried
states.
it back in the day
Yeah, I thought
and,
the Post plant used to do
yep,
I
and the
helped try
pop
to-
companies did their propaganda
that. Yeah.
and shut it down.
Oh, yeah. There'll be rats. There'll be rats everywhere. They made it a public health thing. It was amazing.
Did this one include, the fines for misplaced hazardous waste, was that
We're gonna do all
recycling too?
recycling and then bring all this crap in.
For mixing recycling into garbage?
Shelley, we're just asking for some clarification on this. Fines for misplaced hazardous waste, is it bigger than this? Are there other things? Is it like,
Hazardous waste. And I mean, that could even be your paint, that could be your cell phones, any electronic waste, your light bulbs.
universal waste,
Yeah.
e-waste,
Yeah.
e-waste?
Has waste, light bulbs.
Yeah,
So
that
other
is,
recyclable.
yeah, this is kind of they call it universal waste, and then there's e-waste.
But the
Household
universal
hazardous
waste
waste.
is a lot of, I mean, then
Batteries,
you have
light
hazardous. I mean, it's all hazardous. It has chemicals that
Yeah.
leach into our water and into the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else you want to fit in here? Or is this feel pretty complete for now?
Pretty complete, right?
Great. Let's move on to the next phase here. Sean, you want to walk us through?
All right, so we're gonna do the dot vote.
The Doty, this is Sean Doty, the Doty dot vote.
So everyone has 3 red dots and 3 green dots. You're gonna take and place your dots, the red by the most urgent and the green by the most important. And you can put all 3 dots on one, or you can mix them up and spread them out throughout the board. And by urgent means what should happen first, like in the first stages of the planning.
Yeah.
And then most important, we can't accomplish.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time distinguishing the green.
It's kind of, yeah,
Right.
there's a little
This is a
difference
little tricky.
between those
So,
things.
Yeah.
so another way to look at it is, what do we need to do right now?
Immediately.
They can
And
overlap,
what
right?
can, what is,
Important for the long run.
well, what do we need to do? What are the things that are going to get us to zero waste? Without them, we will not get to zero waste. What's at the top of that list? What do we need to do to get to zero waste? What do we need to do first? They could be the same for you. That's cool. You have 3 green dots, 3 red dots.
You can put them all on the one.
Yeah,
Even
you
your
could
red-
put 1, 2,
red-
3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, however you want to go. Red on this side, green on this side. Have at it. I'm just gonna, just to make this more clear for where the dots are gonna go, I'm gonna put some lines there. Okay. Whoops.
It does smell really good.
Bathroom break.
If everyone could come back in, we're going to review some results.
Review.
Okay, super exciting to see all of the great discussion around these tables. We're going to take a few minutes to review so that we can learn from other tables and increase our knowledge. So I'm simply going to read these. So the first question, why do we care about reducing our waste in Missoula? Sort of identifying opportunities and kind of aligning with our values. So why do we care? Reducing our waste keeps natural spaces clean and healthy. We care because of sustainability. We care, it's our duty and obligation to future generations. We also care because creating smarter, more efficient systems is important. We also care because we reduce and stop pollution caused by waste. We care because of climate change. We care because we save money. We care because of the economic and financial aspect, and it keeps money here with local recycling idea. We also care because of it's a challenge to achieve the goal. And then finally, because resources have value and we certainly don't want to waste them. So great ideas on why we care from this group. So the next group, we care because reducing landfill emissions. So when we waste less, we reduce our emissions. Also, we care because reducing upstream energy, I'm assuming, also reduces emissions. Excuse me. We care by reducing packaging. We also care because exporting waste is harmful to people and the environment. And I see here illegal exports. We care because it preserves ecosystems, and water specifically is called out. And we like to use recycled materials instead of mining sort of raw resources is probably what they're getting at there. Okay, so the last group on why we care. We care because there's financial benefit. We care because we leave the earth in a good way. That likely goes with the ecological impact and caring about that. We also care because it contributes to less extraction. We care about less landfill use. We care about less extraction of resources. We care because it reduces toxicity in our community. We also care because it brings our community together. We care because it's an education exercise, and when we're educated, we make reduction of waste easier. We also care, again, we've heard it in the other groups, because it reduces greenhouse gas emissions. I see a theme there. We care because it contributes to economic efficiency, also a theme. We care because we want to live in the future. That's that forward-thinking piece. That's the kind of community we want to create. And then we care because of deep psychosis, and there was a little bit of conversation around that, and that sort of has to do with just deep thought around reducing waste. Okay, so great ideas that we captured here from the groups on why we care. So on to the barriers. Barriers to reducing waste and achieving our goals set out in the resolution, 90% reduction by 2050. A barrier is apathy. People don't care enough. A barrier is economics. Who's going to pay for it? And who's going to work the jobs? And will it cost us more money? Another barrier is, the whole idea of it is daunting. It's too overwhelming to deal with, to visualize and conceptualize. A barrier are personal habits that are deeply rooted. Adopting zero waste habits is a challenge with our time in the day. We're all very busy. Another barrier is we're geographically isolated, because of that, they pointed out that all recycling is shipped out. Another barrier is we don't have processing capacity or means to do it here. Kind of goes with that above point. So great identification of barriers. That's going to help a lot when we're crafting strategies to overcome those. Okay, so on to the next group with their barriers. A barrier is the cost of recycling currently. A barrier is the cultural mindset or norms, also mentioned in the last group. A barrier is lack of education on how to recycle. There are some steps to it, and being educated certainly helps. Another barrier is lack of desire or unwillingness. We see a barrier as the geographical nature of living in Montana and that being remote. Another barrier is we're shipping too much in and not using local resources. I see a theme here in that we're too busy, the disease of busyness. Another barrier is the desire to buy new, I think I heard clean, shiny things all the time and not reuse because they may be imperfect. Another barrier is lack of commercial business buy-in. There are probably lots of reasons maybe to that, but I'll just leave it at that. A barrier is it feels overwhelming. We heard that from the last group. I'm seeing some themes for sure. Another barrier is climate change. Another barrier is lack of space or services for infrastructure. And I was in on this group, and what that means is actually creating the space for things like backyard or neighborhood composting, not necessarily space in a landfill, but kind of those smaller spaces for all the options besides sending to the landfill. Another barrier is a lack of social network around this concept, and kind of points to why we care, because it can create community. Another barrier is a lack of a business-to-business network, kind of relates to this commercial aspect. Another barrier is lack of manufacturing focused on reusing products that may traditionally go to the landfill. And then the last barrier for this group was restrictive organizational practices. Things like that food can't be taken somewhere else, it has to be thrown away so that we can count for it on our bottom line or kind of write that off. And so there are all kinds of organizational practices out there sort of in that corporate culture or organizational structure that are barriers to these zero waste strategies. Okay, last group. Barriers, convenience of single-use materials. Absolutely. Another barrier is wasting doesn't hit the pocketbook, getting at costs. Another barrier identified is the infrastructure. Recycling not an option for renters. A barrier is no incentives to not waste. This group also identified a barrier of wasteful behavior is too easy. I'm seeing lots of themes here as far as barriers go. Also, the lack of future thinking or narrow scope of thinking. A barrier is packaging, partly a result of safety paranoia to seal, I think that says. And that might relate to the restrictive organizational practices, but I'm sure there are lots of other things there having to do with packaging and safety. Another theme, a barrier, is lack of education. I see specifically on carbon cycle, on impact of waste, and can be presented as a downer, not fun yet. I think I heard some lively discussion around fun. We might hear about that in our next revealing of results. Okay, another barrier is habits are hard to change. I think we heard that from all three groups. Another barrier is recycling can be a barrier. It stops us from reduce, reuse, sort of in the 3 R's concept of zero waste. And then finally, this group identified a barrier of money or funding to create systems and infrastructure. Certainly, those things have a cost, and it sounds like this group thinks there's a lack of funding, or funding could be improved to do that. So, absolutely fantastic lists. I appreciate all of these so much. And we have a group working on the last question that we asked with the voting exercise. They're hurriedly trying to tabulate the votes so that we can start to identify some priorities and see what rises to the top as we organize the plan into, if you remember, the resolution dictates us to include in the plan short, medium, and long-term goals. And so by this voting exercise and identifying what's urgent, what do we need to do first, and what's most important, what are the recommendations that we will not achieve our zero waste goals without doing. It was important to do that exercise, and I'm super excited to hear the results. So with that, I will hand it back off to Katie Duell.
So I have to thank you all again. I'm so excited about the results. Everyone did a great job. There are a lot of great and creative ideas on here. So I'm going to start with red, which was urgent, and we define that as the first steps that we need to take. And the highest in this category was education. People really had a ton of great ideas about education. It should be in the elementary schools. We need public outreach. It should be on social media and with videos. We need signage, consistent messaging, both in look and words. We need to explain to people why, educate on why and how with workshops, focus on youth, kids to parents, have design contests and other contests. Keep it fun and cool in capital letters. Teach reuse skills, bust the reuse versus recycle myth, talk about carbon footprint, and keep it really positive. Track our positive trends and let people know about it. So education was a big one. The next for urgent was a place to take hazardous waste and e-cycling with 4 votes that tied with a couple others, including kind of the flip side, but increase recycling ease and accessibility. And there are a bunch of infrastructure pieces in here. That was one of them. Specifically on recycling, people mentioned curbside, local, meaning in your neighborhood, free, use rail to ship, find other markets for it. Can we manufacture locally and encourage reuse? That was all in the infrastructure and recycling piece. Tied with that 4, make it more expensive to landfill, pay as you throw, P-A-Y-T. Also, no option for single-use items, also got 4. And one thought there was to put a deposit on packaging. Inventory, spelled wrong, waste stream. And one thought was that we could have transfer stations where we could do that inventory. All right, and then at 3, we had incentives, money, pay people money for recycling, CRV, and awards and recognition. That's all the 3s. So for 2, we have developed markets for recycled materials. There's a little bit of overlap in some of these. B2B, I don't know what that means, but it came up twice. Website, materials exchange, and transition streets were all mentioned in a similar vein. Composting also got 2. And then the ones, oops, did I get them all? The ones were fines for hazardous, for all kinds of waste dumping. Regular waste, hazardous waste, e-waste. We want to find people for that. Tie effort to values. That's the ones. And then a bunch of things that came up that didn't get a vote necessarily in urgent but are important. Create efficiencies, pyrolysis, which is burning without waste. Brad can tell you more about it. Ecological economics. And disincentives, make it cool. All right, so those were the urgent ones. Again, the big ones, education, increased recycling ease, more expensive to landfill, no option for single-use items, and inventory of the waste stream. On the other side of this, we have what's important, and education got 11 also. 11 votes, same long list there. The next biggest one on here was infrastructure. Create the infrastructure that's needed with 6 votes, which is pretty high. Tied also with this inventory of the waste stream, also got 6 votes. Then we go to 3 votes on no option for single-use items. 2 votes on a whole bunch of things, the B2B website, materials exchange and transition streets, composting, and creating disincentives to waste. And then 2 were in the 1 category, got 1 vote. Develop markets for recycled materials and fines for dumping waste. And then the rest that are on the list, I've read them, but they didn't get a vote necessarily. They're still valid, legitimate ideas. Actually, I don't think I read plastic bag ban and styrofoam ban because it was above the dotted line. This is a great foundation for a plan. Yeah, thanks everybody. This is super. So we'll do 2 more of these. People have a chance also online. If you have friends, neighbors, encourage them to be part of this process, however works for them. We love to see people show up, but you can get on the website 0x50. If you put 0x50 Missoula, when you Google it, it'll come up faster. And there's a survey there, and we also have comment cards. People can come and fill out a comment card and leave.
The online survey, which is at 0x50missoula.com, same 3 questions on that as well.
Cool.